and gentlemen, please welcome your Spring 2014 Georgia Tech graduates. Students, please rise for the faculty processional.
Good evening and welcome. Because this is, after all, Georgia Tech, we've introduced technology early in the program. Providing the processional this evening for our graduates were 3 shimmy robots designed and built at Georgia Tech. Would you please rise and remain standing for the presentation of our colors and the national anthem, which will be sung by members of Nothing But Treble.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner
Please be seated. At this time, I'm very pleased to introduce Mr. Nekubari Goku, a master's candidate in international affairs, who will give us our reflection this evening.
For as long as I can remember, people have been telling me the same things. Nekubari, one day you're going to do something great. While I'm not sure what it will be, where it will be, or when it will happen, I am sure that there's something special about you, and that one day the entire world will know that too. And thus, inundated with the constant reminders of the great expectations of others, I've lived life every single day in constant critique of myself, always asking one small but very fundamental question: have I done enough? Have I read enough books? Have I met enough people? Have I made enough A's? Have I traveled to enough countries? Have I done enough for me to look back at my life over the past few years and feel proud about how far I've come? 2 years ago, the answer to this question was yes. And then something interesting happened that changed that. I graduated from, let's say, another well-known institution of higher learning in the state of Georgia, situated in a college town not too far east of here known as Athens. And I enrolled as a wide-eyed graduate student here at Georgia Tech. And as you can probably imagine, after just a couple of weeks here on campus, my then high and mighty perceptions of the concept of enough got moved up a few rungs. Never in my life had I been surrounded by so many people who demonstrated such a fervent desire to change the world around them and not just live in it. And thus, being the naturally inquisitive person that I've always been, upon beginning graduate studies here at Georgia Tech, I asked myself yet another question. What is it about this place, this Georgia Institute of Technology, that has the ability to attract students from all walks of life and from the furthest corners of the globe? I've asked myself this question every day for the last 2 years, and it wasn't until about 2 months ago, while I was at home relaxing during spring break, that I got my answer. And the answer was this: the Georgia Institute of Technology is one of the few places in the world in which the concept of enough doesn't exist. You see, because enough implies sufficiency, and sufficiency implies an end. If one studies enough, then one need not study more. If one learns enough, then one need not learn more. And if one does enough, well, then one need not do more. As I look out into the crowd this evening and see students representing different countries, different areas of academic focus, and ultimately different walks of life, I realize that the very thread that holds us all together and forever binds us to the great legacy of this institute is this belief that enough, ironically, isn't enough at all. It is the belief that enough is nothing that wakes us up every day, picks up our feet one by one, and walks us to the library. It is this belief that enough is nothing that sits us in front of the computer for hours, writing papers, writing code, and running lab reports. And it is this belief that enough is nothing that has landed us here at this very moment today. And so as we graduate from Georgia Tech this evening, I encourage each and every one of you to wake up tomorrow, the next day, and every day thereafter, keeping in mind one single fundamental truth, that being that enough is nothing, and that arriving at this realization is everything. Thank you all, and congratulations.
Great job, great job. You've got some fans. You've got some fans. Nekubari, thank you very much. Appreciate your inspiration and good luck to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right.
Well, that's a great start. Graduates, members of the faculty and staff, distinguished guests, families, and friends, it's my great pleasure to welcome you to the 247th commencement exercises here at Georgia Tech. This weekend, we're awarding 2,700 degrees, including the 700 graduate degrees we'll be awarding this evening. As we celebrate the successful conclusion of one chapter of your lifelong education, it's important to acknowledge that you have not done it alone. With us today are families, friends, and colleagues whose love and support have helped to make this day possible. In addition, with us are members of the faculty who have guided and mentored you, sharing with you their time, their wisdom, and their expertise in order to help each and every one of you reach his or her fullest potential and achieve this important milestone here this evening. Would the members of the faculty please stand and be recognized? While I could stand here and tell you how much the graduates appreciate all of your efforts, the parents, the friends, the families, the supporters that are here, I think it will mean more coming from them.
Thank you, Mama and Dad, my wife and my siblings. I graduated 2014. Thank you, I did it. Hey!
多謝爹哋媽咪，喺度好多謝你哋一直以嚟咁對我哋嘅支持啦，對我咁多年嘅栽培，我覺得多謝你哋。
Thanks to everyone, especially my kids who supported me and all the professors at the Breeder and Construction Facility Management Department and you, boss. Thank you for helping me to pass through this. Amy, bye-bye.
Biggest thanks to my brother to be my role model throughout. So Ravi, Mom, Dad, here I am, almost my brother's replica, ready to start a career hopefully as a computer architect. Thanks for your support. You're the best. I hope I made you proud today.
Hey everybody, just want to say thanks to Mom and Dad for always being there. Thanks to Dr. Dufek being a great advisor. Congratulations to the rest of the graduates. And after 7 years and 3 degrees, I'm finally out with a Ph.D. from Georgia Tech. I'm so excited. Thanks everybody.
From the ASDL class of 2014.
Thanks, Dr. Mavris! Go Jackets!
At this time, I'd like to introduce several members of the stage party, and will ask that you hold your applause as they stand when I call their names. Dr. Zvi Galil, Dean of the College of Computing. Come on now, you're going to graduate from Georgia Tech. Dr. Jacqueline Jones Royster, Dean of the Ivan Allen College of Liberal Arts. Dr. Stephen French, Dean of the College of Architecture. Dr. Sridhar Naraswaramyam, Senior Associate Dean of the Scheller College of Business. My apologies. Dr. Paul Goldbart, Dean of the College of Sciences. Dr. Gary May, Dean of the College of Engineering. Dr. Susan Cousins, Vice Provost, Graduate Education and Faculty Affairs, and tonight's mace bearer. Dr. Colin Potts, Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education. Dr. Stephen Cross, Executive Vice President for Research. Dr. William Schaefer, Vice President for Student Affairs. Mr. Ken Little, representing the Center for Career Development, Discovery and Development. And Mr. John Stein, Dean of Students. Thank you. This is a momentous day for you as graduates and for your family and friends who are sharing in the celebration of your many accomplishments. You've worked very hard to earn a degree from one of the finest institutions in the country, and in some fields, one of the finest in the world. And you will forever be linked to this great institution. You are well positioned for success, and you can be proud of your alma mater. As I look out upon all of you today, I see a group that's well prepared for a life of accomplishment and contribution in an ever-changing world. Well prepared, but not because you've learned everything that will be required of you, but rather because your Georgia Tech education is designed to provide you with a solid foundation on which you can build throughout your entire lifetime, on which you can learn and on which you can grow. It's designed to prepare you to work collaboratively, to identify challenges, create solutions, and ask the right questions. And it's prepared you to be leaders in business, industry, government, and in the communities in which you will live, work, and play. You're prepared to not only face the future, but to design it. You have a wonderful future ahead of you, and we are looking for great things from all of you. We're very pleased tonight to have Admiral James A. Winfield, Jr. of the U.S. Navy as our speaker this evening. Admiral Winfield serves as the 9th Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and we're proud to claim him as one of our own. He's a 1978 aerospace engineering graduate of Georgia Tech. And he's proud of it. He flew the F-14 Tomcat and was an instructor at the Navy Fighter Weapons School, or Top Gun. His commands at sea included Fighter Squadron 211, the USS Cleveland, the USS Enterprise, and the Theodore Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group. Admiral Winfield has served as commander of the U.S. 6th Fleet, commander of the NATO Allied Joint Command, Lisbon, and commander of striking and support forces for NATO. His shore tours have included service as director of warfare programs and transformational concepts at U.S. Fleet Forces Command, director of joint innovation and experimentation at U.S. Joint Forces Command, and director for strategic plans and policy on the Joint Staff. Prior to his current position, Admiral Winfield served as commander of the North American Aerospace Defense Command and the United States Northern Command. Please join me in welcoming one of our own, Admiral James A. Winfield, Jr.
President Peterson, thank you, sir, for that kind introduction. Provost Braz, deans of colleges and administrators, faculty, family and friends, and master's and doctoral honorees. Good evening, Yellow Jackets. What an honor and a special privilege it is for me to return to this extraordinary place. And thank you, President Peterson, for offering me a handy get-out-of-jail-free card from Washington, D.C. Sort of a one-day work release program to Atlanta for the commencement speaker. It's tough duty. Actually, my first duty this evening is to extend my heartfelt greetings and well done to this spring's graduate degree recipients. My second duty, like President Peterson, is to remind you to thank your mom and your dad and your spouse if you're married and anyone else in your life who has supported you on this journey, including the magnificent faculty and staff who helped guide you to this moment. I don't think I can go wrong tonight in asking for another round of applause for all of those wonderful people. My third duty is to try to offer something that might be of use to you, an arena full of very bright people who tonight stand at the edge of yet another of life's key transitions. Before you go to an after party that will cause you to quickly forget whatever it is I have to say. As I searched for advice on preparing for tonight, the most memorable piece I found was to avoid rambling, which as a card-carrying rambling wreck caused me to bristle a little bit. So out of sheer defiance, I reserve the right to ramble. I also revisited last fall's convocation speech given by sophomore Nick Selby, which many of you have surely seen because it immediately went viral on the internet. I'm sorry, I have no music tonight. And much to the relief of the ladies and gentlemen seated behind me, I won't try to top Nick's invigorating address. But I would make the point that it was a wonderful and exuberant statement about Georgia Tech and who we are: inventive, enthusiastic, impatient, intellectually rowdy and audacious, sometimes to a fault. It's why I so loved living and learning on this campus, why I'm always delighted to return, and why I'm so honored to stand before you tonight. When I first arrived 40 years ago, an 18-year-old kid trying to figure out why on earth there were bumper stickers everywhere proclaiming, "To hell with Georgia," I had no idea how well this wonderful institution would mature me, to teach me to solve problems, and to impart the awesome technical education I've turned to repeatedly over the course of my career. I have to confess, though, that I've failed to live up to Nick's exhortation. I did not build, much less fly around the world in, the Iron Man suit. But I did fly around a few faraway places in a Navy fighter jet and somehow ended up before you tonight. By the way, it might interest you to know that we actually are building the Iron Man suit, except we call it something else, some indecipherable Department of Defense acronym. It can't fly just yet, but perhaps a few of you in this room can help us with that. Here's another confession. I can't actually recall who spoke at my own commencement, which is both an embarrassing revelation and a good antidote to hubris. I only hope that person isn't here listening tonight. But I do remember who spoke at my Navy commissioning ceremony the very previous day. It was my dad, who, for you Georgia Tech football fans, was born on the exact same day in 1929 that Cal's Roy Riegels ran 70 yards the wrong way with a fumble in the Rose Bowl, helping Tech win its first ever bowl game by a score of 8-7. Now that's some rambling. What I remember from my dad's speech is that it was about Newton's 3 laws of leadership. You know, a body at rest will remain at rest, and a body in motion will remain in motion unless acted upon by some external force. If you use your imagination, you can fill in the rest. It was a great metaphor for talking about leadership, and though he didn't say so at the time, about leading change, which is what I want to talk to you about tonight. Because I believe it's the main reason you worked so hard to gain the knowledge that we will now demand that you put to use. Every academic discipline represented here tonight touches one or more of the major challenges facing our world: energy and infrastructure, population growth and hunger, water resources and climate change, the risks and opportunities associated with an incredibly interconnected world, a rapidly changing economic landscape, evolving threats to global security, and so many others. Many of you will rise to leadership in a field, in business or academia or government or some other profession, charged with tackling one or more of those challenges. Somebody has to do it. It might as well be you. To paraphrase Leon Trotsky, you may not be interested in change, but change is interested in you. This institution has equipped you with the best possible foundation from which to start. I would submit that you are blessed with this knowledge and thus have a responsibility to use it in some kind of positive way. So make the most of it. You don't have much time. That's the why of it should be you leading change. But what about the how? Truth be told, it's much easier said than done, and it can be hardest in a large organization. In my world, Liddell Hart, a famous military theorist whose battalion was nearly wiped out at the Battle of the Somme 98 years ago, was not far off when he said the only thing harder than getting a new idea into the military mind is getting an old idea out. But the same thing applies to government bureaucracies and major corporations and almost any other organization you can imagine. Having tried to emulate a few remarkable people who have managed to do it well, I thought I'd offer you a few humble observations regarding what it takes to lead change. Fundamentally, you have to do 2 things. First, you have to have a good idea in which you believe, and then you have to push that idea through whatever poor, unsuspecting system it is in which you operate. It's that simple, and it's that hard, but it can also be exciting, rewarding, and fun. Leading change begins with the creative process, When someone like you challenges the assumptions and connects the dots from different fields into previously unknown combinations, then unveils either an incremental or revolutionary idea people haven't yet seen. I would assert that such creative synthesis most often emerges from a single person's mind, or at best from a small group. It's almost never done as a herd, which means that even though you walk out of here tonight with a specialized diploma, if you're going to lead change, to breathe life into new ideas that matter, then you're going to have to broaden yourself in a way that allows you to graft different, sometimes very different, expertise onto your own. That thought shows up in a lot of commencement speeches because it's so incredibly important to the kind of people who give commencement speeches, who have probably led some kind of change during their professional lives. The fusion of disparate knowledge can come to you in the most fascinating ways at the most unexpected times, because your mind is always running software in the background, even when you're goofing off. But these flashes of insight, exhilarating as they are, don't arrive free of charge. Oliver Wendell Holmes once said, "I wouldn't give a fig for the simplicity on this side of complexity, but I'd give my life for simplicity on the far side of complexity." If you're a relentlessly curious person and are willing to do the hard work to get to the other side of complexity as you have to earn your degrees, then you have a great start on leading the first part of change. Unfortunately, we tend to spend more energy on that part than we do on the more grueling part of pushing an idea through the system. I used to tell my kids during their soccer years that there are three kinds of people in this world: those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who wonder what happened. Well, life imitates soccer. Making things happen in this world requires a lot of things, but above all, you have to be bold. Surprisingly few people are. I'm constantly reminded that incredibly bright adults will work extremely long hours, perfecting fundamentally flawed concepts. They just aren't bold enough to break out of the existing paradigm. Someone has to lead them through this, and that would be you. Think of it as guiding people on a journey through concentric circles of discovery, ignorance, denial, vicious compliance, well-intended misapplication, and then renewed understanding and acceptance of the idea into body of practice. You'll know you're there when other people start enthusiastically leading the change for you. Ushering an organization through these circles requires not only boldness, but a dash of empathy, as well as tact, persuasion, and persistence. But being bold also means taking risk, which means you're sometimes going to fail. I try to remember that a professional baseball player who is able to reliably limit his failure rate at the plate to only 70% will become one of the highest paid players in the game. I only wish the Braves would fail a little more often when they're playing the Nationals. People just hate to fail, me included, but there's simply no escaping the fact that success is the daughter of failure. My 70% have mostly involved either an idea that was too early for its time, or me not acting fast enough in limited time, or not doing well enough to understand the culture in which I was trying to foster change, or simply an inability to come over the bureaucracy. I'm lucky my failures were tolerated by benevolent bosses who understood that people feel empowered to push through the most amazing things when they know that the only unacceptable failures are a lack of integrity or a failure to learn from failure. But if you do get to the other side of complexity and lead people through those concentric circles, you too can experience the exhilaration of change. What will it look like? Well, you might change the underlying framework for looking at a problem. We've had to do a lot of that lately in the balancing act we call national security. Or you might increase agility by breaking things down into more granular bits so they can be better arranged into better and faster combinations. After all, speed is life in my business, and it will be in yours. Or perhaps you might build greater versatility, like the way we find new things for an existing unit, platform, or person to do, and enable them to switch quickly from one role to another. Or you might pioneer fresh integration, like how our special operations forces have fused intelligence and operations to dramatically increase their effectiveness. But no matter what change looks like, a little humility will do you a lot of good along the way, and that can be the hardest part. There's a natural human tendency to want to take credit when things are going well. Business guru Jim Collins was so right when he said the best leaders combine a deep personal humility with intense personal will. I want to let you in on one of the secrets of why the U.S. has the most capable military in the world. The quickest way for a young fighter pilot or a platoon commander or submarine watch officer to lose credibility is to lack humility by denying mistakes or taking credit where it's not due or even taking credit where it is due. You don't have to be a rock star to lead change. Your people will be more eager to follow you if they know you're doing it for the betterment of something other than your own reputation. So there you have it. Other than the privilege of working with the remarkable young men and women who wear the cloth of our nation, the exhilaration of finding a better idea and pulling it off is what I live for in my professional life, and I hope it ends up as part of yours. I don't pretend that anything I've said to you about leading change is new, but perhaps these modest thoughts on something for which Georgia Tech has prepared you so well will help energize your steps down life's an amazing path. Borrowing Nick Selby's words, you can do it. There you go. You are a hell of an engineer, and you are now from Georgia Tech. I'd like to leave you with one final thought. Whatever flaws we have as a nation, and in the midst of all of our strengths, including geography, demographics, diversity, energy, and other natural resources, freedom to be innovative, the quality of our economy, the world's best military, and especially relevant tonight, our excellence in higher education, all of which refute, at least for me, any narrative that we are a nation in decline, I hope you'll remember that America is more than just a nation. It remains an idea about freedom and liberty, and that more people are trying to get into this country to share in that idea than are trying to leave, and that there are hardworking young men and women out there somewhere tonight who are willing to risk their lives to keep that idea alive for you. Once again, please accept my heartfelt congratulations for the well-deserved fruits of your hard work. Press forward, secure in the knowledge that your future is less about what you decide to do in life and more about how you go about doing it and what kind of person you become in the process. And thank you so much for inviting me back. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to publicly say how well Georgia Tech prepared me for my future, as it has surely prepared you for yours. I can assure you, the best is yet to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Admiral Winnefeld. Thank you for being here with us tonight, and thank you for everything you're doing to serve our country. The most significant honor a university can bestow is the honorary degree. At Georgia Tech, we hold these degrees very dear. Only 26 honorary degrees have been awarded in the Institute's 128-year history. Honorary degree holders include President Jimmy Carter, Atlanta Mayor Ivan Allen Jr., astronaut John Young, oil executive Pete Silas, and Senator Sam Nunn. This evening, the Georgia Institute of Technology will confer its 27th Honorary Doctor of Philosophy upon Miss Sue Vann. Dr. Bross, will you please hood Miss Vann? The honorary citation reads, "The President and faculty of the Georgia Institute of Technology, to all whom these presents may come, greetings. Whereas Sue Van has enriched educational institutions and biomedical engineering throughout her visionary leadership as Director, President, and Chief Executive Officer of the Wallace H. Coulter Foundation, has guided the Foundation's efforts to advance innovation in biomedical engineering and ultimately improve the human condition, and has forever altered the Georgia Institute of Technology through the transformative philanthropy directed at her behest, which led to the establishment of the Walter H. Coulter Department of Biomedical Engineering at Georgia Tech and Emory University. Now, therefore, we do hereby confer the degree of Honorary Doctor of Philosophy with all the rights, privileges, and honors thereunto appertaining. In witness whereof, the signatures of the Chancellor of the University System of Georgia, the President and Registrar of the Georgia Institute of Technology are hereto subscribed, and the seal of the Institute is affixed. Awarded in Atlanta on the 2nd day of May, 2014. Congratulations, Ms. Van. Do one more thing. Joining Sue today are several representatives from the Wallace Coulter Foundation, as well as her sisters, Betty Van Schaefer and Susie Shands. Will you please stand and be recognized?
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. To the Board of Regents, to all my friends and colleagues at Georgia Tech, thank you for this fantastic honor. Everyone knows that Georgia Tech offers a very innovative entrepreneurial program, but I'm not sure if all of you know how innovative and entrepreneurial all the programs are. My partnership with Georgia Tech started in 1998 when the benefactor of my foundation passed away. And I spoke to Martha Garcia and said, "Don't worry, the Wallace Coulter Foundation seeks to have a long-term partnership with Georgia Tech." And Georgia Tech has been a private, experimental, risk-taking laboratory for my foundation. I come from industry, and I didn't know how to run a foundation. I had never worked with academia. I had not given out grants. But I wanted to try a few things, and I was only comfortable in trying it at Georgia Tech because Wallace went to school here. He was here 1930 to 32, and he was always proud of the education that he received at Georgia Tech. He came for electrical engineering. At that time, there was no biomedical engineering, certainly no translational research. So we wanted to try something new and experiment. And this university was willing to be partners. We invested in translational research. For those of you who do not know, that means taking invention and innovation from the laboratory and try to take it to the patient. And the process involves a great deal of commercial analysis, follow-on funding to get it to the patient. So we started an experiment with translational research with the vehicle of biomedical engineering. And at that time, in 2000, biomedical engineering was a very new field. Industry had no idea what it was. So together, Georgia Tech, biomedical engineering, and the partnership, we were able to have enough success that the Coulter Foundation launched the National Translational Research Partnership. And today, we have partners with 15 universities around the country. But that is not the magic. The magic is that the goal of translational research with biomedical being the main vehicle and the tool, was to save patients' lives. My donor, Wallace Coulter, each and every one of you, you may not know his name, but each and every one of you have benefited from his invention. And talking about market share or market dominance or creating or inventing, he created a market that did not exist. Prior to his invention, the blood test took 60 minutes. He created automated blood cell testing. It made it affordable and accessible to people around the world. That is what contributed to healthcare medicine as it is today. He made it into 15 seconds. Can you imagine how accessible that made it to the rest of the world? So my donor, but not only, was the inventor of the automated hematology blood cell analyzer. His Coulter counter is the manufacturing gold reference method for quality control in the laboratory of over 500 consumer products, like wine, like milk, like chocolate, like cosmetics, like toners, like powder, like paint. So I was very honored and privileged to have been his trustee because I was the CFO of his company. But I had not worked at a foundation before, and I needed someone to be my mentor that would allow me to make mistakes and learn from my mistakes, but also who would be innovative and creative to try things. So Georgia Tech has been my partner to the foundation for over 15 years. And for those of you who do not know, in 2000, we established the Wallace H. Coulter Award for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. That was the seed that created the early career Coulter Translational Awards in 2005 for the rest of the country. It also helped to create the translational pilot that was started in 2000 at the Department of Biomedical Engineering. And in 2005, we kicked off that pilot and launched the Coulter Translational Partnership to the rest of the country. This department, with its biomedical engineering degree, focused on translational research, will save lives. They will touch the life of you and your parents and your children and your friends and your family, and it will save people's lives. That was basically created here together at Georgia Tech. Another creative program, you have heard of the joint degree. In 2006, we launched together the first and only global Ph.D. with 3 outstanding universities, Georgia Tech, Emory, and Beijing University, 3 distinguished universities in the world to create the one and only global Ph.D. We have a graduate from the first class in the audience, Dr. Warren Gray. Okay. Also in that year, we launched another experiment. This was the double master's program at Shanghai Jiaotong University. The uniqueness of this program was perhaps not the doubles masters. The uniqueness was we created a program called Coulter Fellows, and in it, we introduced the concept of community service. Community service had not existed in China. Therefore, we gave the concept of giving back since they were all Coulter Fellows, and we invested Wallace's money. But we also were the first to establish the one and only university-based Toastmasters program in Shanghai. In the entire city of Shanghai, this was the first. And why was that? Because we wanted to develop communication, leadership skills, and the concept of community service back to the students. Education is not enough. When you have a short time on this earth, you must always think of ways and opportunities to return something back to humanity. And these students, for the first time in any program in China, taught English and computer skills. to the migrant workers, and that had not been done before in China. This year in August, we launched another experiment with the city of Shenzhen. Dr. Tan Zhou from ECE, we are going to kick off the first graduate single master's program ever by a university in America there, and we will launch it in September, August of 2014. So as you can see, Georgia Tech has been partners with the Coulter Foundation for over 15 years. When I started the foundation, I was trying to find ways to pay tribute to Wallace. So the translational program in biomedical engineering, the joint venture in Beijing University, the Coulter Fellowship Program in Shanghai Jiao Tong University, and the Shenzhen program in China, because Wallace loved the Far East. And he learned about global marketing and thinking global and acting local, and the power of distribution and the power of having your own people take care of your customers. He learned it in Shanghai. And he always said to me that China will not only be the world's manufacturer, but it will also be the world's consumer. So let us make sure that we do not forget that this country, in fact, was a land of invention and discovery. And it is important that the United States and China are joined at the hips, because together they can make it into a better world. So for 15 years, I have tried to figure out in all my programs, with all my partners, a way to share with the world that all of these programs were a tribute to Wallace. For me, to thank him, because only in America and only an American would pass his entire fortune to a Chinese immigrant and entrust her with his legacy and his estate to ensure that science serving humanity will continue. So let me share some words with you that he once shared with me. He said, never forget who you are and never forget where you come from. Be curious, be open-minded, be inclusive, but most of all, be passionate, because without passion, you will not be able to accomplish what you want to accomplish. The only difference in life between success and failure is passion. And I know that all of you and each of you are so lucky to have Georgia Tech as the investor in your career, as the mentor in your education, and as the guide in your future. I wish you well, I wish you luck, but as they say, the best is yet to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Van. Now we come to the time that you've all been waiting for, the conferring of your degrees. So the moment of walking across the stage represents the culmination of much work and achievement for each of our graduates. I would ask that after you receive your diploma, you return to your seat and show your fellow students the same respect they've given to you as you cross the stage. A note to our guests. This year, for the first time, we instituted a new Georgia Tech tradition of holding a Ph.D. hooding ceremony the evening before commencement. We did that last night here in the McCamish Pavilion, and many of you joined us for that special event. Now we look forward to presenting the diplomas and shaking the hands of Georgia Tech's newest Ph.D. recipients. At this point, I'm pleased to welcome back to the podium Dr. Raphael Bras, Provost and Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs, who will now present the candidates for the doctoral degree.
Will the candidates for the doctoral degrees please rise? Mr. President, I have the honor of presenting to you for the doctoral degrees those candidates who have completed all requirements for those degrees.
Upon the recommendation of the faculty of the Georgia Institute of Technology and by the authority of the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia, I confer upon each of you the degree of Doctor of Philosophy with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities thereunto appertaining. Congratulations on earning Georgia Tech's highest degree.
Doctor of Philosophy, Dr. Michael Bruce Murphy. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Dan Briesnitz. Dr. Jacob O'Donnell Huckabee. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Heinrich I. Christensen. Dr. Oded Green. The doctoral advisor is Dr. David Albert Bader. Dr. Jiaoming Yin. The doctoral advisor is Dr. David Albert Bader. Dr. Gaurav Dwivedi. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Melissa Kemp. Dr. Urchana Vidya Bhupathi. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Michael Elliott Davis. Dr. Jin Sung Hong. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Cheng Zhu. Dr. Song Ping Sito. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Jonah Tremenhoff. Dr. Andrew William Seifert. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Ajit Yoganathan. Dr. Lee J. Kao. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Thomas Harrison Barker. Dr. Warren Dale Gray. The doctoral advisors are Dr. Michael Elliott Davis and Dr. Ying Luo. Dr. Melissa Ann Kinney. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Todd McDevitt. Dr. Daniel Christopher Millard. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Garrett Baker Stanley. Dr. Jean-Pierre Michel Rabat. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Ajit Yoganathan. Dr. Wafa Ahmed Sufi. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Astrid A. Prinz. Dr. Chunhung Liu. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Robin Thomas. Dr. Kerry Michael Bruce. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Bruce N. Walker. Dr. Samir Akshabi. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Konstantinos Dovrolis. This degree is being awarded posthumously and received by Ms. Floria Izadi, friend of the Akshabi family. Dr. Ravi Sastri Ganti Mahapatruni. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Alexander Gray. Dr. Nazneen. The doctoral advisors are Dr. Gregory D. Abode and Dr. Rosa Arriaga. Dr. Shruti Sanadia. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Raghupathy Sivakumar. Dr. Hina B. Shah. The doctoral advisors are Dr. Mary Jean Harold and Dr. Nancy J. Nersessian. Dr. Latif Demeji Yusuf. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Uma Kashyore Ramachandran. Dr. Zahur Zafrullah. The doctoral advisors are Dr. Thad E. Starner and Dr. Irfan Essa. Dr. Fong Jing. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Karsten Schwan. Dr. Robert Thomas Schweizer. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Celia Pierce. Dr. William Matthew Cox. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Marilyn Brown. Dr. Benjamin Harris Deacham. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Marilyn A. Brown. Dr. Tema Katura Monroe White. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Susan E. Cousins. Dr. Yu Wong. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Marilyn A. Brown. Dr. Thomas Woodson. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Susan E. Cousins. Dr. Joseph Jeremiah Estep. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Joseph D. Dufek. Dr. Dasa Gu. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Yuhang Wong. Dr. Cindy L. Young. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Joseph G. Dufek. Dr. Kai-Shang Kao. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Yuhong Fan. Dr. Mariam Dorudi. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Barbara D. Boyan. Dr. Yunji Zhang. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Yuhong Fong. Dr. Hyunshik Shin. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Dan Margalit. Dr. Rebecca Ray Winarski. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Dan Margalit. Dr. Sarah Elizabeth McBride. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Wendy Ann Rogers. Dr. Megan Elise Lutz. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Susan Embretson. Dr. Vanessa Marie Thompson. The doctoral advisor is Dr. James S. Roberts. Dr. Ji-Yun Yoon. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Jack M. Feldman. Dr. Preetha Bagchi. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Christophe J. Farni. Dr. Candice Kathleen Fleischer. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Christine Payne. Dr. Ziyin Lin. The doctoral advisor is Dr. C.P. Wong. Dr. Gustavo Ivan Angulo Olivares. The doctoral advisors are Dr. Shabir Ahmed and Dr. Shantanu Subes Day. Dr. Camilo Ortiz Diaz. The The doctoral advisor is Dr. Renato D. Montero. Dr. Craig Granberry Cameron. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Kenneth H. Sandage. Dr. Kara Evanoff. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Gleb Yushin. Dr. Joel Lee. The doctoral advisor is Dr. C.P. Wong. Dr. Timothy Lee Prine. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Rosario A. Gerhardt. Dr. Si Hong Wong. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Zhong L. Wong. Dr. Irina Drachuk. The doctoral advisor is Dr. V.V. Sukruk. Dr. Judy Sun-Young Lee. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Sigrun Androdottir. Dr. George G. Thiers. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Leon McGinnis. Dr. Li Shu. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Shezhe Dang. Dr. Brian Kenneth Bowling. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Dimitrios Mavris. Dr. Alexandra Emelina Koso. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Amy R. Pritchett. Dr. Prashant Kare. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Vigar Yang. Dr. Carlos Jose Montalvo. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Mark Francis Costello. Dr. Anurag Rajagopal. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Dewey H. Hodges. Dr. Nicholas Daniel Revelos. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Marilyn Ruth Jones Smith. Dr. Jonathan Leo Sharma. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Dimitrios Mavris. Dr. Rajiv Shenoy. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Marilyn Ruth Jones Smith. Dr. Shanawaz Siddiq. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Vitaly V. Volovoy. Dr. Peter Michael Suh. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Dimitrios Mavris. Dr. Andrew Jacob Turner. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Dimitrios Mavris. Dr. Linda Hazim Al-Mood. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Christopher W. Jones. Dr. Unduch Armutululu. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Sue A. Allen. Dr. Jose Antonio da Costa Baltazar. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Clifford Lee Henderson. Dr. Nitesh Buwania. The doctoral advisor is Dr. William J. Koros. Dr. Kate Marie Cerulli. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Athanasios Nenes. Dr. Nita Chandrasekhar. The doctoral advisor is Dr. David S. Scholl, also receiving Master of Science in Chemical Engineering. Dr. Sarah Songun Kim. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Paul A. Cole. Dr. Li Wei Li. The doctoral advisor is Dr. David S. Scholl. Dr. Shui Ning. The doctoral advisor is Dr. William J. Koros. Dr. Kyung Hee Oh. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Victor Breedveld. Dr. Vinod Pandian Babu. The doctoral advisor is Dr. William J. Koros. Dr. Katrina Ann Stultz. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Krista S. Walton. Dr. Di Tang. The doctoral advisor is Dr. David S. Scholl. Dr. Chen Zhang. The doctoral advisor is Dr. William J. Koros. Dr. Konggang Li. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Yongxing Chen, also receiving Master of Science in Computational Science and Engineering. Dr. Arka Pandit. The doctoral advisor is Dr. John Crittenden. Dr. Ketki Sharma. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Sotira Yakumi. Dr. Pedro Sun. The doctoral advisors are Dr. Qinghua Huang and Dr. Spiros G. Pavlostatis. Dr. Marcus A. Trail. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Armistead G. Russell. Dr. Josephine Denise Kressner. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Lori Garrow. Dr. Eric Daniel Marks. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Kimberly Erin Curtis. Dr. Fawad Suleiman Niazi. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Paul W. Main. Dr. Ephemios Papadopoulos. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Juan Carlos Santamarina. Dr. Ni Nar Norte Yaboa. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Susan Burns. Dr. Nawaf Ibrahim Al-Musa. The doctoral advisors are Dr. Sudhakar Yalamanchili and Dr. Yore Wardi. Dr. Songchul Bak. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Jongman Kim. Dr. Oral Balavwan. The doctoral advisors are Dr. Justin Keith Romberg and Dr. Christopher John Roselle. Dr. Ahmad Behrami. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Faramars Fekri. Dr. Albert Walter Berzico, Jr. The doctoral advisor is Dr. John Alexander Copeland III. Dr. Alexander Glencairn Cunningham. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Frank Delert. Dr. Greg Nathaniel Drogi. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Magnus Eggerstedt. Dr. Troy Daniel England. The doctoral advisor is Dr. John David Kressler. Dr. Jordan Douglas Greenlee. The doctoral advisor is Dr. William Allen Doolittle. Dr. Sinwen Shao. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Abhijit Chatterjee. Dr. Moon Gong Jung. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Sung Kyu Lim. Dr. Mehdi Kiani. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Mezam Govanolu. Dr. Hyung Min Lee. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Mezam Govanlu. Dr. Andrew Donald Paquette. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Deepak Divan. Dr. Hae Won Park. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Ayana Howard. Dr. Saeed Hussein Raza. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Irfan Essa, also receiving Master of Science in Electrical and Computer Engineering. Dr. Yakshna Sharma. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Irfan Essa. Dr. Jinwoo Shi. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Fumin Zhang. Dr. Christopher Kowalczyk Turns. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Justin Keith Romberg. Dr. Nicholas Lin Zhou. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Abhijit Chatterjee. Dr. Jinhua Yu. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Tong Zhou and Dr. Bob Boxley. Dr. Olufumilola Omobolaji Atilola. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Julie Lindsay. Dr. Xiaoyu Ding. The doctoral advisors are Dr. Tequila A.L. Harris and Dr. Thomas Fuller. Dr. Michael Milan Kirka. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Richard William New. Dr. Jeffrey Allen Cornuta. The doctoral advisor is Dr. James Brandon Dixon. Dr. Jeffrey Townsend Lloyd. The doctoral advisor is Dr. David L. McDowell. Dr. Catherine H. Matlick. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Lawrence J. Jacobs. Dr. Thomas Ian Malki. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Saeed M. Ghiassian. Mulcahy? Sorry. Dr. Thomas Ian Mulcahy. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Saeed M. Ghiassian. Dr. William David Musinski. The doctoral advisor is Dr. David L. McDowell. Dr. Raphael Efeani Okereke. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Suresh K. Sitaraman. Dr. Parisa Puyan. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Hamid Garmestani. Dr. Shraddha Jagadishbhai Vashani. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Surya Khalidini. Dr. Brian Min Yun. The doctoral advisors are Dr. Ajit Yoganathan and Dr. Cyrus K. Iden. Dr. Wen Chao Zhou. The doctoral advisor is Dr. David W. Rosen. Dr. Matthew Scott Hagan. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Eva K. Lee. Dr. Thanawadi Priprem. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Gregory C. Gibson. Dr. Sarah Coini. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Randall L. Gunsler. Dr. Spencer Christopher Foster Bachman. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Matthew Baker. Dr. Vincent F. Fiore. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Thomas Harrison Barker. Dr. Ahmed Kadri Mansi. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Mustafa H. Amar. Dr. Johanna Carolina Goodman. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Paul A. Cole. Dr. Banafshe Barbadi. The doctoral advisors are Dr. Yogendra Kumar Joshi and Dr. Satish Kumar. Dr. Payam Alipur Motalin. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Ali Abidi. Dr. Ji Wan Choi. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Richard Vuduk and Dr. John Man Kim. Dr. Luis Miguel Cortez Peña. The doctoral advisors are Dr. Douglas Blow and Dr. John Berry. Dr. Dwayne Clarence Howard. The doctoral advisor is Dr. John David Kressler. Dr. Orlando Lazaro. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Gabriel Afonso Rincon. Dr. Nima Torabkani. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Faramars Fekri. Dr. Shin Shi. The doctoral advisor is Dr. Irina Sokolik. Dr. Ngozi Ada Edze. Doctoral advisor is Dr. Valeria Tover Miliam.
Please join me in congratulating all of our doctoral degree recipients. Dr. Bross will now present the candidates for the Master of Science and Master's degrees here at Georgia Tech.
Will the candidates for the Master and Master of Science degrees please rise? Mr. President, I have the honor of presenting to you the Master and Master of Sciences degrees to those candidates who have completed all requirements for those degrees.
Upon the recommendation of the faculty of the Georgia Institute of Technology and by the authority of the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia, I confer upon each of you the master's degree with all of the rights, privileges, and responsibilities thereunto appertaining.
Master of Science, Stephen Judd Gregg. Michael Adam Guy. Natalia Quintanilla. Di Sui. Zhengfang Zhu. Master of Science in Computational Science and Engineering, Jonathan Richard Gregg. Nitin Jain. Chen Hao Liu. Brian Jeffrey Stebar II. Master of Science in Quantitative and Computational Finance, Saptarsi Mukhodapaidi. Shi Yang. Yong. Master of Science in Human-Computer Interaction, Samrat Anil Ambadkar. Sahithya Bhaskaran. Brandon J. Conway. Alex Simon Duncan. Joseph Andrew Gonzalez. Anhong Guo. Mudit Gupta. Erin Christine Hennessy. Omrutha Krishnan. Haojer Lee. Xiaohui Luo. Keenan Russell May. David Munoz. Abhishek Nandakumar. Shruti Pandala. Sanat Rath. Lisa Marisa Rossi. Vipul Vinod Thakur. Graceline Regala Williams. Shunhui Wu. Ongyu Zi. Xuan Si. Derek E. Lok Young. Master of Science in Bioengineering, Alireza Madavagar. Alireza Madavia. Gregory Matthew Phillips. Master of Science in Statistics, Ashley Jean Bullard. Master of Science in Information Security, Harshal Narendra Chaudhry. Tushar Kakasahib Umbe. Rohit Jamwar. Anish Ninad Kale. Keritha Meda Ramanarathan. Master of Science in Computer Science, Kaushal Mahesh Ambani. Rushmi Aonche. Rashuti Baid. Lokesh Balakrishnan. Shrey Bansal. Ramitha D. Chitlur. Xian An Cho. Siddharth Chowdhury. Chloe Clavier. Shane Alexander Del Solar. Osama El Akshar. Guillaume Herbe. Juan Carlos Garcia. Gavin Dieter Gresham. Ukshay Gupta. Arvind Krishna Jagannathan. Yatish Jain. Mingrui Ji. Elias Boutros Khalil. Joshua Michael Kimball, also receiving Master of Business Administration. Ludovic Christian Koenig. J. Vernon Kyle. Gino Le Palek. Danny Hee Yong Lee. Rabab Lembachar. Leo Hugo Henri Logert. G. Lu. Michael Patrick Milholland. Gauruv Naresh Narang. Arun Padmanabhan Narasimhan. Rimi Palandri. Gabriel J. Perez Irizarry. Kim Kwong Johanna Pham. Matthew Planche. Paul Kent Plunkett III. Ho Yin Pun. Niranjana Raghupati. Vignesh Rathinasamy Somasundaraman. Michael David Sambal. Sagar Kuverji Savla. Sihun Son. Suraj Saripali. Srinidhi Sripati. Varun Rajesh Thakar. Tiga Rajan. Archana Shri. Gaurav Gav Verma. Umeya Wilonkar. Lakshmi Niraja Vinjan. Frederick Witzkamp. Jiyuan Yang.
Master of Science in International Affairs, Parker H. Cleveland III. Kate Elizabeth D'Andomio. Nekabari Ledum Goka. Shazin Nazrin Jafar. Carlos E. Lemos. Grace Elizabeth Nagel. Wesley Harris Nichols. Ashley Elizabeth Rawson. Tiffany Shanoff Wood. Erin Brigitte Sexton. Despina Diane Vestakis. Master of Science in Digital Media, Po Jui Chen. Catherine Louise Farina. Jihan Feng. Fengbo Li. Govind Lingam. Erica Elizabeth Penk. Benjamin Aaron Pincus. Adam Paul Rafinsky. Laura A. Schluckabeer. Iris Yesing Sun. Samuel Pieter Zwan. Computational Science and Engineering, Sudarshan Sridharan. Master of Science in Public Policy, Christopher Young Ballou. Stephanie Christine Noble. Benjamin E. Staver. Shelley Catherine Stewart. Claire Elizabeth Woodring. Master of Science in Geographic Information Science and Technology, Sarah Jean Snell. Master of Science in Urban Design, Amy Lynn Bledsoe. Egon Zhang Zhang. Master of Science in Music Technology, Ziwen Fan. Minwei Gu. Xinyuan Lai. Shuo Liu. Iman Kalyan Mukherjee. Govinda Ram Pingali. Anish Vartakavi. Shaduo Xie. Master of Industrial Design, Michael Douglas Carpenter. Hannah Yu Hao. Victoria Jaris Harrison. Krista Yonyang Lee. Sarah Marie Maddox. Allison Justine McKenna. Sunchit Matul. Yao Sun. Master of Science in Building Construction and Facility Management, Elijah Kweku Afedzi. Taesun An. Faroud Manjiz Azimi. Ryan Joseph Engel. Adedamola Modupe Fajinmi. Melissa Gregor. Prathiksha Ramaswamy. Danica Diana Walker. Eric James Hayward II. Elizabeth Diane Wilson. Master of Architecture, Daniel Victor Al-Hadif, also receiving Master of City and Regional Planning. Melissa Dawn Baird. Lindsay Boland. James Gordy Boyer. James Andrew Bramlett. Catherine Kirby Braswell. Hee Jin Cho. Nicholas Russell Coffey. Thomas Fred Crambulet. Madonna Liz Kumar. Alahe Damirasheli. Shamrata Mohan Dani. Ekram Said Hassan. Alexandra Marie Holzer. Michael Kevin Ilua. Jennifer Elizabeth Ingram. Migyung Ko. Charles Andrew Lindberg. Canon Randolph Manley, also receiving Master of City and Regional Planning. Melvin A. McClure. Sarah Ann McConnell. Scott Jonathan Myers. Jeremy Christopher Nash. Miguel Antonio Otero Fuentes. Caitlin Ann Pale. Mihir Dinesh Patel. Alan Carl Pierce. William Lewis Ramhold II. Ralph Eddie Raymond. Rebecca Dawn Riley, also receiving Master of City and Regional Planning. Erin Ruth Sherman. Junying Shi. Joshua Robert Toole. Bunny Tucker. Logan Francis Tura, also receiving Master of City and Regional Planning. Charles James Van Horn, Jr. Maria Fernanda Velasquez Mendoza. Master of City and Regional Planning, Elizabeth Marie Adams. Maria Sotnikova, also receiving Master of Science in Public Policy. Isaac David Asher. Tharunya Balan. Meredith Frazier Britt. Bradley Joseph Calvert. Benjamin Whittier Chambers. Carolyn Renee Coburn. Darren Rudyard Cooper. Nilesh Prakshau Thespandi. Sarah Regina Haas. Chelsea Elaine Haygood. Caitlin Marie Morano. Marion Owen Phillips. Audrey Keller Spiegel. Taylor Nicole Tiger. Master of Business Administration in Management of Technology, Jonathan Edward Ivaskov. Christine S. White. Master of Business Administration, Saeed Abrovich. Andrew Philip Barch. Nayan Baribalyan. Ryan Ray Coleman. Sean Carithers. Lucianne Eve DeVio. Kristen Noel Fadley. Vinayuk Gaikwad. Suhas Prakash Hiremagolalor. Joseph James. Madhuroni Arvind Keskar. Michael Asher Mazor. Micah Justin Micah. Rushali Nishant Farain. Tilak P.L. Rao. Alexander E. Ray. Edward Rowe. This degree is being awarded posthumously and received by wife Sherry Choi, mother Donna Rowe, and father Robert Rowe. John Gillette Stennard. Sharon Valuru. Barry John Zognina. Min Zhu. Master of Science in Prosthetics and Orthotics, Emma Isabel Blas. Connie Kangpen Chen. Yi Ting Zhang. David M. Fine. Delisa Taylor Lawson. Lauren I. Levy. Stephen Anthony Siebert. Seth Thornton Smith. Michael Jacob Sosi. Master of Science in Earth and Atmospheric Sciences, Sarah Catherine Milway Fullerton. Emily Victoria Madison. Fan Zhang. Master of Science in Biology, Heba Hamdan. Master of Science in Bioinformatics, Sandra Ann Baithke. Gaurav Sarika. Vartika Agrawal. Master of Science in Mathematics, Hannah Manuel Philpott. Duncan Somerset Wood. Master of Science in Supply Chain Engineering, Chen Chen. Alvaro Andres Gajardo Linan de Ariza. Han Yuan Wu. Master of Science in Health Systems, Kevin Eric Johnson. Master of Science in Operations Research, Keith Ellison Belcher. Patrick Lewis Brundage. Ji Ha Kim. Jasmine Denise Walker. Master of Science in Industrial Engineering, Akam Cordes. Mark Munch. Balur Anukan. Sylvain Thomas Schaller. Master of Science in Aerospace Engineering, Kayla Kristen Aloyo. Natalie Artunas. John Allen Burlett II. Michael Anthony Bernatovich. Shai Bernstein. Emmanuel Bourgain. Grant Mark Bristow. Jorge Calderon Fernandez. Mateo Carrara. Alexander Likes Carrere. Kelly Marie Colette. Adam William Cox. Manuel Jose Diaz. Jean-Guillaume Dominique Durand. Francesca Margarita Favaro. Colby Ira Friedland. Sean Gow. Brooke Price Harper. Heidi Jill Hatterberg. Amanda Renee Heckwolf. Melissa Janine Hughes. Andrew Morgan Irby. Emily Margaret Collin. Joel Teresh Langston. Wubong Lee. Claylia Level. Luke William McNamara. Sarah Jean McNamara. Cole Andrew Morrison. Leah J. Ruckle. Christopher Michael Sandwich. James Mike Schoonover. Chung Kai Wang. Chi Wang. Justin Alexander Mangalas Yang. Master of Science in Material Science and Engineering, Natalie Krista Ganlow. Richard Davis. Robert Allen Fisher. Robert Sutton Thompson. Master of Science in Chemical Engineering, Kenekchuku Arize Ordnunbogo. Kevin Rodriguez. Master of Science in Environmental Engineering, Tianling Linda Chang. Tyler Thorleaf Croney. Rawan Sami Elafi. Christopher Wolf Forehand. Yi Shen Liu. Si Chun Park. Priya Pradeep. Jiyu Tan. Yao Hong Si. Master of Science in Civil Engineering, Catherine Elizabeth Benson. Emma J. Bones. Samuel Harris. Adam Jamal Caranbelli. Peyton Earl Ling II. Priscilla Elena Laverius. Derek Henry Lush. Kyle Justice Manweller. Keebum Park. Risha Devika Ramatar. Ryan Christopher Sager, also receiving Master of City and Regional Planning. Shikar Shukla. Maria Carolina Seglia Simoas. Jerome Ganak Sin. Austin Richard Wong. Patrick Neil Weaver. Master of Science in Electrical and Computer Engineering, Aftab Ahmed. Zahur Naheem Anthony. Angel David Arcia Gill. Sabrina Siham Ayat. Shiram Balasubramaniam. Suvadeep Banerjee. Jemin Bang. Paul David Bartholomew. Aditya Udaya Barve. Reese Bay. Omar Bin Royun. Paul Jean-Andre Bernier. Aditi T. Bende. Todd Christopher Bialadecki. Philip Bonhome. Petri Mikhail Broas. Anatole Henry Catherine. Odin Charbonnier. Luis Ruoxi Chen. Sejun Chen. Timothy William Clark. Alistair John Cobold. Kyle David Coogan. Anu Pratik Das Patnaik. Yancy J. Diaz Mercado. Alejandro Armando Diaz. Chaitanya K. Donthini. Darshak Kishore Doshi. Menga Na Du. Balaji Ladgovan. John Diamaraye Arindovaye. Tricia Selena Fagan. Samantha Mary Feeney. Thomas Fimble. Lewis Fisher. Austin William Foote. Joshua Gatos, also receiving Master of Science in Mathematics. D. Gan. Varun Rajiv Gatne. Jonathan S. Gorlin. Ansim Grover. Yang Guo. Ricky Campbell Hayes II. Brent Richard Jaworski. Chen Jiang. Justin Leon Jiang. Sumit Suresh Joshi. Aditya Shrikant Kadam. Sahil Kapoor, Amit Pradeep Karande, Sujay Vijay Kumar Cole, Chon Soon Kim, Yiming Kong, Varsha Rajaram Kurapati, Angelo Kurian Malayil, Hadrian Bernard Langtuit, Sylvain Antoine Marie Leleprieve, Maxime Lecanu, Sebastian Jean Leclerc, Sung Gun Lee, Catherine Marie Lentini, Victor Elliott Levin, Jihan Lee, Carolyn Lim, Violet Louisot, Hanama Teja Madali, Mark D. McMurray, Deval Rajesh Mehta, Zhong Meng, Kevin Hanif Mohammed, Nazim Mahendibai Momin, Mohsin Mukhtar, Aditya Murali, Malavika Nugahali Prasanna, Jill Jaitan Parekh, Charmi Patel, Corentin Gabriel Kreschlush, Timothy Matthew Phillip, Pallavi Hirasave Prasad, Ines Mercedes Radovanovic Rivas, Srinivas Ramachandran, Karthik Rao, Shruti Thrissel Ravish Kamandran, Ifra Saeed, Masar Sakar, Guillaume Bertrand Henri Louis Sal, Divya Sankar, Omar Santana, Ryan Michael Sarton, Pranav Pralhad Sawant, Brett Michael Dunn Sawyer, Donald Edward Sadivi III, Pankit Dimant Shah, Priyank Prakash Shah, Syed Ramiz Talat, Shruti Suresh Todi, Rana Muhammad Umar, Ahmad Usman, Andrew Lewis Vanderhayden, Andrew Amir Vaziri, Peter Lee Vieira, Prabhavati Viswanathan, Shuojing Wong, Yuan Hao Wong, Michael Wong, Winnie W. Wu, Gu Hao Xiao, Li Yuan Yao, Chak Man Yang, Li Shen Yen, Zhen Yu Zhang, Chu Yan Chu, Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering, Gilbran D. Alvarez, Joshua Thomas Anders, Kathleen Carmen Bernard, Paulius Maximus Braslauskas, Douglas Charles Broadwell, Alex Conway Buchanan, Keenan Lloyd Carter Jr., Hong Chen, Matilda Marie Siri, Ryan Robert Davis, Crystal Renee Dillon, Rohit Yashwant Doifode, Sarah Elizabeth Eccles, Daniel Christopher Edwards, Esther Vanessa Fotso Simo, Derek Fernell Franklin, Siddharth Gadapalli, Anthony John Chanko Garcia, Matthew John Greer, Alexander Anthony Hansen, Gregory William Harrington, Joseph Prescott Hickey, Harrison Holmes Jones, Colby Lewis Jarrett, Samuel Haidong Kim, William E.R. Krieger, Lauren Elizabeth Lacey, Mikhail Fernandez Lara, Florent Alain Lecartel, Matthew Curtis Leroy, Yuan David Ma, Arnold Novin Maliki, Aaron Timothy May, Scott Russell McCann, Margaret Hunter McDonald, Christopher Andrew McKay, Taylor Lee Medford, Peter Nago, Brian Vincent Osabin, Olatobi Ogunlee, Devin Patrick Perkins, David Burrell Pudliner, Thomas Robert Reed, James Thomas Richardson, Maxim Lane Sankey, Kurt Walter Sheffron, James Emmanuel Silva, Thomas Renaud Tardif, Tapan Kishore Shah, Ashwin Paul Thomas, Ivan Andres Tibovinsky, Alexander Ting, Crystal Jeanette Vasquez, Neng Wong, Master of Science in Building Construction and Facility Management, Hussam Aldin Wasmi, Master of Architecture, Jiwen Wang, Arlan Zarabi, Master of Science in Computer Science, Yanjun Chen, Arun Kumar Ganasan Karanbagi, Ivan Sisaviv Siosev, Mohini Devang Thakur, Master of Business Administration, Loy Derek Fernandez, Vinayak Srivastavas, Master of Science in Bioinformatics, Pramod Maigauda, Master of Science in Supply Chain Engineering, Peng Chen, Li Ding. Master of Science in Aerospace Engineering, Aparna Kansai. Prajwal Shiva Praksasha. Sean Pravin Shah. Jaime A. Toro Medina. Rohan Deepak Dush, Master of Science in Civil Engineering.
Will all of the graduates please rise? Almost there. Hang with me. You've earned a graduate degree from one of the most prestigious institutions in the world. Master's graduates, you can now commemorate your great achievements by moving your tassels from the right to the left. Please join me in congratulating. Almost there. Georgia Tech alumni are an extraordinary group of high achievers. To welcome the members of this graduating class into the Fellowship of Tech, I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Steve Chaddick, classes of 1974 and 1982, and this year's chairman of the Georgia Tech Alumni Association.
Thank you, President Peterson. It's my honor and great pleasure to congratulate you and welcome each of you to the Alumni Association of Georgia Tech. At its core, the Alumni Association's mission is simple: to keep you connected with each other and the Institute and advance the Institute through roll call, our annual fund. But not all want to stay connected to Tech, at least not right away. My friends were all in a hurry to get out. In fact, instead of attending my own commencement, I jumped on a plane to San Francisco to start my first job in Silicon Valley. Like many of you, certain experiences here gave me a love-hate relationship with the Institute. I think it was fall of 1971. I studied all morning for the Math 208 final, last calculus course before differential equations. Open book, anything goes. I trudged into the classroom in Skiles, second period, and the instructor, who was a math Ph.D. student named Mike Massey, looks at me and says, "Chaddick, where are you going?" And I say, "To take your final." He says, "Well, you just missed it. It was first period." And I was about to protest that no, I knew it was scheduled for second period when I saw my classmates staggering out of the room. You probably know the look. Dazed expression, hair blown back, eyebrows all singed off. Uh-oh. Massey, who was president of the Graduate Student Senate at the time, invited me to his office to discuss the situation and caused his VP, Jesus Leon, to reschedule the next period meeting. I want you to hang on to that name, Jesus Leon, for a second or two. It's going to come back around. Massey says, "I've got the classroom for another hour. Here's what we're going to do. You're going to go to the blackboard, and I'm going to give you an oral final, closed book, just you and me. I'll be able to tell if you know your stuff or not." That was scary. I did okay, and he gave me an A. It's unlikely I would have done that on the real final. He could have given me an unexcused absence, an incomplete, or even failed me, but instead of the shaft, he let me prove myself and boosted my self-confidence. I got to tell you, I still have nightmares about that morning. My advice is to use those kinds of experiences to stay connected to Tech, not to distance yourself from her. Meanwhile, remember the name I mentioned, Jesus Leon? He was a Ph.D. student in EE, and a year or so later, I found myself in his class, EE 362. We had a good laugh about my earlier experience. Now fast forward 6 or 7 years, I'd returned to Atlanta from the West Coast, working at Scientific Atlanta, and found myself competing with my friend Jesus for a management job, which of course he got. A few years later, after I had co-founded a company, Jesus called me to place some of the engineers from his company that had just been acquired. I hired him instead. We were then acquired, Jesus moved to Madrid, and I was fortunate to co-found another venture. Another 3 years in the future, at a dinner in Dallas at a big trade show, guess who's there? Jesus. Our CEO, who is another tech alum, and I recruited him on his way back to Spain, and we hired him within weeks. I tell you this story so that you recognize the value of the Georgia Tech network now and not wait a decade to get it. The two companies I co-founded, only 2 of 9 founders did not have Georgia Tech degrees, but only 3 of us knew each other here at Tech. What you'll come to realize is that you will have other Tech alumni as bosses, employees, collaborators, co-inventors, and yes, co-founders. Why? Because you will appreciate the values and skills you learned here. Work ethic, competence, fearless innovation, and you will seek them in others. So don't wait to absorb this knowledge. Look around. You'll be surprised how many of these people will become part of your future. Maintain and grow your network. Don't wait. It will matter later in ways you cannot anticipate. I mentioned the Alumni Association's mission in philanthropy through roll call. Did you know that more than 60% of philanthropy at Georgia Tech arises from alumni one way or another? You have benefited directly from decades of alumni support. Endowed chairs, professorships, fellowships, and scholarships permeate Tech, enhancing your academic experience, made possible by generous alumni. It can be hard to give back early in your career, maybe more so emotionally than financially. So, to get you started, I am pleased to tell you that a donation of $25 has been made to roll call in each of your names enabled by anonymous alumni. Keep it up. Make it a habit. I am not going to challenge you to go create great science and technology. Paraphrasing Nick Selby, you're from Georgia Tech, you will do that. I don't have to challenge you to build great companies or invest in your communities. You're from Georgia Tech. You will do that. But I will challenge you to stay connected to Tech. Build your network. Come back to campus. Join a local alumni network. Mentor a student. And contribute to roll call. Because we are from Georgia Tech, and that's what we do. Congratulations again, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. In closing, I'd like to express my appreciation to Joe Hughes and Harry Sharp for announcing the graduates' names. And many thanks to all of the associates who helped plan and conduct and carry out this important event. At this time, members of Nothing But Treble will lead us in the alma mater, followed immediately by the faculty recessional. The graduates and audience are requested to remain standing as the platform party recesses. Then, I invite all of you to join us in the singing of the most famous fight song in the United States, the Rambling Wreck. Thank you, congratulations, and Godspeed.
O sons of Tech, arise, behold the banner as it reigns supreme. For from on high the white and gold wings Tech and a hell of an engineer. A hell of an engineer. Like all my jolly good fellows, I drink my whiskey clear. I'm a rambling wreck from Georgia Tech and a hell of an engineer. Oh, and if I had a daughter, sir, I'd dress her in white and gold and put her on the campus to cheer the brave and bold. And if I had a son, sir, I'd tell you what he'd do. He would yell to hell with Georgia like his daddy used to do. Oh, I wish I had a barrel of rum and sugar 3,000 pounds, a college bell to put it in and copper stirred around. I drink to all good fellows who come from far and near. I'm a rambling, gambling, hell of an engineer. A rambling, gambling, hell of an engineer.